Hi there boys and girls, Brucey here, and today I'm going to talk about red light fever. What is red light fever? I suppose you've heard it referred to maybe as performance anxiety. That inability when you come to record, when you come to press the red button, you take the ability to play guitar and feel like you've never touched the instrument before. You know, you can play anything, you can play it in your sleep, you can play it upside down, and then you come to play it and you put the red light on, you're under the microscope, and boom, it's like you've never touched the instrument before. And this becomes a self-perpetuating issue because the more you stress and the more you worry about it, the more it becomes problematic. Now, why am I talking about this today? Because yesterday I was in the studio and I was recording a new track for my album that will be coming out later this year. And of course, with my own tracks, I can play them inside out, upside down, any which way you can. I've practiced them and practiced them and practiced them. I know them so well. As soon as the record light went on, it was like I was like, that was a good interpretation of what it was. I could just not get it right. And I know I'm not alone with this, so I thought I would do a little video addressing some of the things that I went through, some of the issues that it raises, and some of the ways, more importantly, to get around it. First off, what is it? It's, in a sense, it's a fear of making mistakes. You become scared of making mistakes. You know, all of a sudden, mentally, you are under the spotlight. Everyone is looking at you. Everyone is concentrating on you. And that's it. You feel that every little glitch you make, you know, let's say, when you're playing that by yourself, when you're playing it around, you're not really concentrating. But as soon as you know that someone's concentrating, you might think, I didn't play that quite right. The tone's not quite right of that note. Oh, I've made a mistake. Oh, and then you go to the next chord and it all just falls to pieces. There is also a feeling that this is going to be something which stays with you forever. So if there's any glitches or any notes, people are just going to focus on it and criticize you, particularly in the world of YouTube and the internet world, where everyone will be pulling everything you do to pieces because that's just the way it works. The more you think about this, the more you go into a downward spiral and the more mistakes you make and the more you can't do it. The track I was recording yesterday, I ended up doing probably 20 or 30 takes and it just wasn't working and I was beginning to pull my hair out. But luckily I've got some experience with this, so I was able to pull out some techniques. Along with being scared of making mistakes and feeling that you're under a microscope, some of us as well bring a lot of baggage with us as well. All our experience, all our expertise, something which when you start thinking about it, you know, others are judging you by it. It's like, well, I can't put out a bad recorded track because I teach recording, I teach guitar. So if I fluff something up or it doesn't sound great, everyone is going to be judging me. So what's going on is in your head, all these little voices are going blah, 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 nag, 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 nag. And then you start to succumb to what's known as imposter syndrome. You think, well, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I shouldn't be a guitar player, I can't play, you know, I'm just rubbish. The more you think about this, as I said before, the more it self-perpetuates into a series where you just tie yourself around in knots. So what are some of the techniques you can do to overcome this? Well, first off, the obvious one is preparing. You know, make sure you are prepared. The more prepared you are, the more you practice, the more you know that the things inside out, the less likely you are to make mistakes and the easier it's going to be for you. If it helps to bring a chart along, even if it's your piece and you know it, sometimes just having that visual clue of where you're going next can help you in that moment when you just go, oh, I'm a little bit lost. Just, you can take a casual glance and you can go, oh yeah, that's the bit. Don't worry about this. You know, this is the studio environment. This isn't live. People aren't watching it. You can do whatever you want, whatever you need to do to get the track done. So I like to just have sometimes a little chart of just the overall rough structure of the song and the chords that are coming along, just so I know that I can, if I'm getting a little bit confused or a little bit ahead of myself, I can just look down and go, oh yes, the chorus next. It's an A. Boom, I hit the A, and we're good to go. Another thing that can really cause you to struggle and suffer from red light fever is if the vibe isn't right. Now, vibe is such a horrible word because, you know, it means different things to different people. And the vibe can be the room that you're in, where you're sitting, how you're, you know, how you're feeling, how the place is making you feel, if you're feeling relaxed, because ultimately all this comes down is to being relaxed as you're doing the job. The more stressed you are, the more tension is, the more mistakes you're going to make, and you fulfill this prophecy and you go round and round in circles. If you're not feeling the vibe is right, if the track that you're doing isn't right, you know, maybe just spend some time jamming it out to the backing track. If you've got a guide track already down, put a guide track down, just put a rough guide track down. That might actually be the best take that you do. Once the pressure is off, you might just do it. If you think this is just a guide track, I'm not thinking, I'm playing the song. Whatever, it goes down and you relax and you've got something in the bag. If that's not working for you, the other thing to do, if there are other different parts, you know, maybe just a simple chord progression, which is part of the track, get that down. Just get something in the bag, get your confidence going up, and then come back to those harder tracks that you are trying to record, or that solo that's just not going right. So get the vibe right, try an alternative part. Stand up. If you are in a studio, you know, think about when you play live, you're probably standing up maybe, and you might play better. You might play it differently in that way. Again, conversely, if you always play standing up and you're struggling, sit down. Or vice versa. If you always play seated down, stand up, see what it can do. Again, standing up makes me feel like I'm performing, and it just puts my mind in a different space, as opposed to when I'm sitting down trying to record, I'm thinking, oh, I've got to nail everything, and I'm in a serious mode because I'm sitting down. As soon as I stand up, there we go, I'm relaxed, I get into the vibe of the track, and we get going. So those are some of the things that you can do to maybe help you. Now, technically, there are some other things that can do that maybe what are causing you to have issues. One of them is getting a good mix, listening to a good mix. If you're listening in headphones, if you're monitoring through headphones in the studio, making sure you've got the mix right, all the things that you want to. Because if the drums are too loud, if your guitar is too loud, all these things will throw you off. Particularly if you feel that your guitar is so loud in your headphones, you're hearing all those little mistakes that you make. So just bring the level of maybe your guitar down. Also, when you've been practicing, have you been practicing through your amps? Have you been practicing acoustically? Because the sound of the guitar is very different. And when you switch that around to a studio environment and it's a slightly different tone, that might be something that is throwing you as well. Just play the guitar acoustically. If you've got your amps mic up, if you're using an amp modeler, take the guitar out of it and just play along to the drum track. So in this case, imagine it's being recorded through the amp modeler, but I can't hear it. And as long as I've got a click or something, I can hear that, I can play along, and maybe it will help me feel more natural and hearing the sound that I'm used to. The other technical issue, which can be a massive problem, is the fact that a lot of us now are doing things in home studios or small studios. So we are becoming the engineer, the guitar player. We're doing everything. We're miking up the amp, we're tuning up the guitar. Everything is our responsibility, and that sometimes is just too much to bear. And I know I'm guilty of it. When I go into a studio with an engineer, I play a lot better than I do sometimes when I'm trying to record things at home, particularly when I've got all the mics up, because it's that baggage. You know, I teach recording engineering. I am a recording engineer and a guitarist as well, but when I combine the two, sometimes my head is split down the middle and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm listening to the tone. That was, you know, probably for me the biggest issue yesterday was the tone that I had. I was just not digging it. You know, I'd done everything by the book, what I was expected. I mic'd up my lovely valve amp. I had loads of mics on it. It just wasn't working. That vibe wasn't there. Ultimately, when I gave up with all that and I actually just plugged into the Helix, I played the track straight through perfectly, no mistakes. And it sounded pretty good. I mean, and again, there's this other internal argument, which we won't go into now, about real amps and modeling. If it works, ultimately, it's just got to work for the track. And does it sound good? And it sounded really good, and we kept those takes. The vibe was right, the pressure was off, and that made it somewhere easier. So always have in the back of your mind home studio issues. They can be a thing if you're trying to do too much. One of the ways I get around it is trying to look away from the speakers if I'm doing it in my studio here, face away from the speakers. I've got my iPad which controls Logic, and I just have record and play, rewind, everything at my fingertips, so I can just go backwards and forwards and just jump in and jump out of the recording process. But I'm away from the computer, I'm not looking at the computer, and that helps me quite a lot. Can even go into another room and do it, which again can help a lot. I just stand up, go outside, got my headphones, got an extension, boom, and I'm good to go. And finally, one thing I would always suggest is go to a studio. You've got your home studios, they're great for doing demos, but sometimes if you're suffering quite a lot from this red light fever, actually go to a studio and take some of that pressure off yourself and see if that helps. I'm going to leave you with the final point, and again, I'm hoping to do a video with some other people on this, but just remember this crucial point. It is normal. Go online, look up your favorite guitarist. I am sure there are countless examples of them talking about red light fever, where the stress, the pressures, imposter syndrome kicks in and you just go down a spiral and you can't play guitar. Hopefully trying some of these techniques I've mentioned will help you just get out of it and be able to play. Ultimately, red light fever is all in here, and it's nothing to do with these little things. You've just got to get it right up here. Hope you found that useful. Please do leave any comments below on any times that you've suffered from red light fever and any tips or tricks that you've got to get around it. I've been Brucey. If you like my channel, please do subscribe. I've got a load of videos on guitar playing, on psychology of creativity. So if you like these concepts, please do hit the subscribe button, give me a like. I've been Brucey, and I will certainly catch you later.